Well, somebody's gonna get pissed off at this video. So, Sonic Forces. It's, oof. I will say right off the bat that I genuinely really like the quote-unquote boost trilogy of Sonic games. Sure, the Werehog is really dumb, but playing it is fine enough, I suppose. So when we found out we were going to get a fourth boost game, I was actually interested, but also puzzled. 4 games with the same main gameplay style. Okay, I guess we'll see how things pan out. The hype for this game has been really rough too. Mania took up every ounce of people's interest, and if anything, it kinda made Forces worse as a result. I didn't like Sonic Forces. I think it's a bad game and a worse Sonic game. And listen, I know that talking negatively about Sonic the Hedgehog is just going to leave the most interesting comments down below, so I will do my best to explain why I think this way. And also, warning, we're gonna go into full-on spoiler territory here. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but it's best you have a heads up at the get-go. Conceptually, Sonic Forces does something pretty unique. After the millionth romp through Green Hill, because nobody remembers Emerald Hill, Dr. Eggman summons villains of Sonic's past, as well as his own original fan character, Infinite, and they all beat the crap out of Sonic, and Sonic dies. Nah, just kidding. Actually, he's been held prisoner for 6 months, constantly being tortured by Eggman. This is real. I mean, yeah, this is a definite darker Sonic plot than we're used to. He ends up being totally fine in the long run and shows no effects of the whole being tortured thing, so it's really only told through text rather than shown. But that may be for the best. I don't think I'm ready for another gritty Sonic reboot. While Sonic was captured, Eggman successfully took over the world, and in response, a resistance group was formed with all of Sonic's friends being a part of it, and this is where your creatable avatar comes into play. And actually, this is pretty cool. The options that you have here are pretty substantial, and you constantly get a ton more accessories to change up your look at a moment's notice. A lot of us had our own fan characters when we were younger, so it's pretty cool that an official product lets us put them in the game. This is my chance to create the original Sonic character of my dreams, the one who will help restore order to the world. Perfect. I will name him, I don't know, Flapper? Because he's a bird? Yeah, sure. Flapper the bird? My original fan character, don't steal. Soon enough, Sonic breaks out of prison thanks to Flapper's help, and the rest of the story is the Resistance doing stuff to stop Eggman and Infinite's control over the world. Oh, and Classic Sonic is also here. That about covers why he's in the story. Just look at his face. You can tell he just wants to go back to Mania. The idea now as well is that he's from a different universe rather than a different time. Nice consistency? Honestly, the plot is just okay. It's a neat idea, but it was clearly not fleshed out. Infinite is a run-of-the-mill villain who comes and goes without leaving really any impact, and whenever anything remotely interesting is about to start up in a cutscene, it quickly fades to black and they begin to explain things in these static voice boxes instead. They never really show how much of this grip Eggman has over the world. There's like 1 or 2 flashback cutscenes that kinda get the job done, as well as some background details in a few of the stages. But really, things are just darker and less colorful than normal. Oh, and spoilers, those villains that were brought back, they're all creations thanks to Infinite's Phantom Ruby, because the game just had to be tied to Mania for some reason. You fight Zavok really early on, Metal Sonic quite a ways in, both fights are super easy, the real Shadow deals with the fake Shadow with one nice roundhouse kick. And Chaos just doesn't show up after like the 3rd cutscene. That's terrible. Eggman's henchmen Orbot and Cubot are also here, but they only ever speak in like 1 cutscene. This feels so unfinished. I am well aware that you could argue the importance of story in a Sonic game, but they went out of their way to push things in a new direction and just didn't seem to care about fleshing things out. Gameplay-wise, it is cut up into 3 different styles: Modern Sonic, your custom avatar, and Classic Sonic. Modern is basically exactly where you're used to at this point. You build up your boost meter and you blast through enemies. Well, when the level design is not being dumb enough to give you a boost before a spot where you shouldn't use it, aside from that. And once again, there are plenty, and you can argue too many, 2D sections as well. And for some reason, the in-air controls are way less precise than they used to be. Anytime you try to perfect your jumps, it always feels like a luck of the draw. And also, while we're on the subject, there is also this free downloadable episode Shadow, offering some backstory to Infinite, as well as a playable Shadow for the first time in years. However, it is only 3 really short, somewhat unique levels, and he plays almost identically to Sonic, aside from this enemy dash move that he has, making the option to eventually play as him in Sonic stages uninteresting, since he is more or less a skin. Second up is the Avatar, and really it doesn't play much different than Modern Sonic. Just instead of a boost, you have this gun that is based on the Wisps, that is basically always overpowered, allowing you to blast through the dozens of enemies that they toss at you with the press of a button. Or if you collect the right capsule, basically skip large chunks of the levels. And also, why are we still using the Wisps? Wasn't the whole point of them that there were these space aliens you were trying to save and you were using them to save their planets, but now they're just here as ammunition? Okay, cool. When the Avatar was officially announced, I figured it would be a little bit more like an adventure style of gameplay, but this is really just a slightly different Modern Sonic. I mean, the city level for both is nearly identical, and they're about an hour apart in the story. Why? And what is probably the most painful of all is that the stages are ridiculously short and lacking anything that would make them memorable, aside from very sporadic set pieces. In my opinion, there are 2 fairly good Sonic stages and 1 pretty good Avatar stage, and that is as far as I would go. But even then, when things start to get good, it just ends. Just comparing this to Generations, even in that game's Green Hill, there was far more stuff happening that required you to be attentive. The Avatar also has this grappling hook that they use too, but most of the time they just use it without your control, and with the level designs as uninteresting as they are, it is crazy that they didn't try to make that mechanic more engaging. There's a small handful of co-op stages too, where both Modern Sonic and Avatar tackle a stage together. You control them both at the same time, similar to, say, Sonic Heroes, and the one in charge changes depending on when you boost or when you use your gun. And in concept, these are pretty cool, but again, since both characters feel nearly identical, you can play nearly the entirety of all of these stages without switching once. In Heroes, each of the 3 characters had distinct benefits, and you could pick and choose different paths accordingly. Here, you're either Sonic, who can occasionally use a gun, or you're the Avatar, who can occasionally start boosting. Sometimes the game will do this double boost thing too, where you mash the button as fast as you can, the 2 of them fist bump because that's the name of the theme song, and they both boost on ahead at maximum speed. Or you could just see what would happen if you don't press the button, and then they just stumble around for a second and do the boost anyway. You don't even need to press a single button during these segments too. This is real! Oh, I absolutely love at the end of the Metal Sonic fight, if you don't boost, he just sort of waits for you to gather your footing so he can properly be defeated. It's really good. So, until this point, things are actually kinda decent. It's a mishmash of ideas that don't really make a lot of sense, since, like the story, nothing is really all that fleshed out, though they control fine enough for what little there is. And then this garbage shows up! Classic Sonic in Forces is one of the least enjoyable playstyles in recent Sonic games, in my opinion. He just constantly feels off, somehow way worse than he felt in Generations. I really wish this was a joke, but if you just hold right on this decline, he somehow loses all momentum by the time he reaches the ramp. This is real. And maybe I'm misremembering here, but I do not remember the mechanic where you dashed into a wall and then slammed straight down. Yeah, I forgot about that part in Sonic 3. Oh, and sometimes it's pretty glitchy too, let's not forget about that.
What is happening? What in the hell is happening? What in the hell is happening?
Perhaps some of these issues are Switch exclusive and will be patched out in the future, but still, this is the worst part of the game when he shouldn't have even been here in the first place. He has no bearing on the story at all and was clearly just thrown in here as a marketing tool. That's real classy, Sega. On top of all that, the bosses are pretty uneventful too. 3 of them just have you constantly boosting and mashing the homing attack, that's it. And boy, this one is just amazing. The final boss is a rehash of the final boss from Sonic Colors. Again, this is the 3rd time they've used this boss. I am legit shocked. Oh, and if you thought that whole double boosting thing with Metal Sonic was good, I love this. If you choose not to use the special triple boost at the end of the final boss, he legitimately just sits there as he waits for you to get close again. Man, that's amazing. And nope, Infinite is not involved in the final fight. You just fight him the same way you fought Metal Sonic, and then he disappears. That's it. If you think that I'm just blindly hating a Sonic game, which wouldn't make a whole lot of sense considering Mania only came out a couple months ago, and I've already beaten it like 15 times, that's fine. I have some evidence to back up my claims. Check this out. 1 lead level designer and 2 standard level designers. Only 3 people designed this game's levels, and on the surface, that is not inherently bad. Adventure 2 and Heroes had small design teams as well. The thing is, the lead level designer only previously worked on Lost World, while the other 2 have no experience making Sonic levels. Forces supposedly took 4 years to develop, and Sega allocated one of the most important aspects of the game to a trio of newbies. Huge shout out and thank you to ntom64 on Twitter for the research. And at the end of the day, that is why this game is frustrating to me. If it was just another below average Sonic game, we would all move on with our lives. But that, combined with classic Sonic being shoehorned in when he doesn't belong, shows that, in this instance at least, Sega is much more content with a Sonic game that has a selling point on the back of the box, rather than a selling point being the game itself. Sure, finally putting your own character in an official Sonic game is really cool, but there's not enough game here to make it all that worthwhile in my opinion. At least the Switch version runs fine enough, it's 30 frames per second as opposed to 60, and it's a little bit blurrier in comparison, but it is totally playable, and having it on the go, you know, that's nice. Also, going forward, can we please stop using not that bad as the bar of quality for Sonic games? I'm hearing more people say this Sonic game wasn't that bad than this Sonic game was good. And that is an argument that has been used for this series for far too long. Sonic Unleashed was released in 2008. It is time to move on from the boost formula. Leave classic Sonic out of things, try to make a Tails and Knuckles gameplay style that is actually worth a damn, and for all that is good and holy, do not have us play through Green Hill Zone once again. Including Episode Shadow, there are 5 Green Hill Zone stages in this game. I guess on its own, Sonic Forces is just an average to below average platformer, but coming from the last game of a similar style, Generations, which is still a lot of fun to play to this day, this goes multiple steps back and is easily my least favorite 3D Sonic game, aside from Boom, I guess, but that's its own thing. Let's not get into it. I know that comparing this game to Mania is really not that fair, but it really is just a shame that a team made of fans spent years perfecting the 2D Sonic formula to create one of the best games in the franchise, while the people who own the character released a game that feels both unpolished and unfinished. They may as well just release the character creator separate. That's the best part of the whole package. I feel like I'm harsher when it comes to this topic because I know this franchise is capable of great things, especially as consoles get more and more powerful. I don't feel content saying, well, at least the game is functional. Ultimately, even though I didn't like this game at all, I will still call myself a fan of Sonic because I will be there when the next game comes out, no matter how divisive it will be. Maybe we'll have a sequel to Adventure finally, maybe we'll have something entirely new. Maybe we'll have a sequel to Sonic Labyrinth, I don't know. But for now, we're gonna end off this video similar to how it started. I really want to go back and play Super Mario Odyssey. Wait a minute. Wasn't there a series of games that starred both Mario and Sonic?
Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games!
Oh, this is gonna be rough, isn't it?